Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished dignitaries, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Embassy of India in Kuwait, I welcome you all to today's event, an expert talk on Made in India COVAXIN, which the Embassy is organizing on the occasion of World Health Day. The event is being held in association with the Indian Business Network, IBN Kuwait, and the Indian Professionals Network, IPN Kuwait. In view of the prevailing pandemic, today's event is being held largely virtually in line with the COVID-19 related health and safety guidelines. I would like to take this opportunity to inform all the Indian businesses and professionals in Kuwait that the registrations for IBN and IPN continue to remain live. All Indian businesses and professionals are encouraged to register and join these respective networks. Today's event is part of a series of events that the Embassy has been organizing under the broad theme of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or Self-Reliant India. So far, Embassy has organized various events under this theme focusing on different sectors of Indian economy, namely agriculture, pharmaceuticals, textiles, automobiles, marine products, and so on. There are many more events lined up in the coming weeks, months, and the year ahead. All of you are cordially invited to attend these events and contribute in further enhancing bilateral trade, commerce, and investment linkages between India and Kuwait. Today's event is also a continuation to the symposium on COVID-19 that was organized by the Embassy earlier in February 2021, which witnessed massive participation and tremendous response. Through this event, we now not only wish to share India's experiences and best practices on COVID-19 management, but also wish to bring to you a truly indigenous success story from the pharmacy of the world, that is India. To talk about this extremely relevant issue and share our beautiful story, we have with us today a senior official from the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of Republic of India, and an expert speaker from one of India's leading pharmaceuticals company. Before we begin the official proceedings of the day, may I request all the esteemed guests who have joined us here in the auditorium to continue to follow all the COVID-19 guidelines, especially maintaining social distancing and wearing of your respective masks properly throughout the program. Thank you for your cooperation in this regard. Without further ado, may I now request the following dignitaries to come to the dais for the traditional lamp lighting ceremony. His Excellency, the Ambassador of India to Kuwait, Shri C.B. George, Sir. His Excellency, Dr. Ahmed Tuwaini Al-Anisi, President of Kuwait Medical Association, KMA, and Dr. Amir Ahmed, President of Indian Doctors Forum, IDF Kuwait. Please, sirs. I would also like to invite Madam Smita Patil, First Secretary, Political and Commerce, to join us on the podium for the traditional lamp lighting. I thank all the esteemed dignitaries on the dais and request them to take their respective seats in the auditorium, while I request His Excellency Ambassador of India to stay on the podium, to stay on the dais and come to the podium and deliver the opening keynote address, please. Thank you, sir.
Secretary to Government of India, Shri Dhamu Ravi, His Excellency Dr. Ahmad Tuwaini, President of the Kuwait Medical Association, esteemed dignitaries from the Ministry of Health, State of Kuwait, Dr. Rachas Ella, Project Lead for SARS-CoV-2 vaccines and Head Business Development and Advocacy, Dr. Amir Ahmad, President of Indian Doctors Forum, IDF, esteemed members of the media community present here today with us, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to all of you, and welcome to Embassy of India, Kuwait. I begin my remarks by thanking His Highness Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, Amir of the State of Kuwait, and His Highness Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, Crown Prince of the State of Kuwait, for hosting the large Indian community in Kuwait, and also for the care and support the government and the people of Kuwait extend to the Indian community during the COVID-19 pandemic. 2021 is a year of important milestones for India and Kuwait. This year we celebrate the 60th anniversary of establishment of diplomatic relations between our two countries. We also launched the 2-year-long celebrations of the 75th anniversary of India's independence. This is a great confluence of mutual milestones and celebrations. We wish to celebrate this in a befitting manner. We may not be able to celebrate it with a lot of festivities due to the ongoing pandemic, but we certainly intend to celebrate in as grand a manner as possible within the parameters of COVID-19 health and safety guidelines and protocols set by the Ministry of Health of Kuwait. I acknowledge the presence of Honorable President of Kuwait Medical Association, Dr. Ahmad Al-Enisi, who has joined us and agreed to address us today. I recall his participation at the symposium titled Combating COVID-19, India-Kuwait Partnership that we organized with the IDF last month. I value his contributions, his support, and his close cooperation in strengthening our partnership in healthcare, which is a key element in our multifaceted bilateral relationship. Excellency, I thank you for accepting my invitation once again and look forward to your address. I also thank the Indian Doctors Forum, its president, Dr. Amir Ahmad. I welcome him to this audience today. IDF has been an important partner for the embassy, especially in our efforts in ensuring the welfare of the Indian community in Kuwait. I thank IDF for its humanitarian efforts and its many endeavors in supporting the Indian community in its efforts to fight the pandemic. Dear friends, today is the World Health Day. This year, this day comes at a very difficult time for all of us. COVID-19 pandemic continues to take heavy toll on human lives and livelihoods. People, societies, and economies around the world are facing enormous challenges. For many, it is a question of survival. What began as a public health emergency has now clearly metamorphosed into a wider socio-economic disruption. On this day, we are most grateful than ever to all the healthcare workers fighting this pandemic. Their selfless service and sacrifices is what has saved many lives. They are the real superheroes of the day. They make us all proud and inspire one and all. Medical scientists have worked round the clock and raced against time to develop the much needed vaccines against the deadly infection. This is a story worth telling and listening to, a story of human courage, fortitude, and resilience against the odds of the nature. We bring before you one such story from the pharmacy of the world, India. Dear friends, many of you remember the COVID-19 symposium we organized in association with IDF in February this year. The event received tremendous response from a large section of people from all walks of life here in Kuwait and in India and in other countries. A number of our Kuwaiti friends and well-wishers had personally reached out to me for organizing a very informative and relevant session. I am sharing this with you to highlight the relevance of organizing educative sessions related to COVID-19, including one on vaccine development. The fight against COVID-19 is still a work in progress. We need to remain vigilant, share knowledge, updated information and best practices to be exchanged, and we remain ahead of the curve in this ongoing battle against this deadly infection. Today's event is part of this continuous endeavor of the Embassy to contribute to this collective fight against COVID-19. I am honored to have a very senior colleague from my Ministry of External Affairs, Sri Dhamu Ravi, Secretary for Europe and for COVID-19, to join us today to speak about India's handling of the COVID-19 situation, to share its experiences and best practices. As the nodal officer in the Ministry of External Affairs on COVID-19 related issues, he has been in the thick of the action at the ministry and leading India's effort to support the global fight against COVID-19. Sri Dhamu Ravi is, in fact, one of the best trade negotiators that India ever had, having led many of the FTA negotiations, both bilateral and multilateral levels. I welcome him to this event and look forward to his remarks, which will be extremely helpful to all the participants of today's event. Dear friends, our central theme of today's event is Made in India COVAXIN. An expert speaker from Bharat Biotech, the manufacturer of COVAXIN, and one of India's leading biotechnology companies, will make a presentation on COVAXIN development. This is one of the many success stories from India, which has rightfully justified its tag as the pharmacy of the world. Home to more than 3,000 pharma companies, with a strong network of over 10,000 manufacturing facilities, India is the only country with the largest number of US FDA-compliant pharma plants, that is more than 262 outside of the USA. India pharma sector supplies over 60% of global demand for various vaccines. India is currently the largest producer of generic medicine in the world, supplying over 50% of generic demand in the US and 25% of all medicine in the UK. The industry is poised to grow even further, driven by innovation and R&D, infrastructure development, enabling environment, and the right ecosystem. There are plenty of opportunities for investments in this sector. 100% FDI is allowed under the automatic route for greenfield pharma. 100% FDI is allowed in brownfield pharma, wherein 74% is allowed under the automatic route and thereafter through government approval route. I would encourage the investor community in Kuwait to look at this thriving sector and a large number of exciting investment opportunities in this high growth sector. It is a sector which has truly found the formula of success. I would also encourage the pharma sector in Kuwait to start using Indian pharma products. I especially look forward to a day in coming months when we will have the Indian generic medicine available in Kuwait as it is currently available in other parts of the world. My embassy would be keen to facilitate this in cooperation with interested businessmen from the friendly state of Kuwait. Dear friends, I just spoke about the Indian pharmaceutical and vaccine development position. I would like to take this opportunity and add here that this production capacity of India is not to serve India alone, but to the entire world. In this regard, let me quote from the remarks by UN Secretary General Guterres Antonio, which made in January early this year. He said, and I quote, "I would like to say how much we count on India. I mean, India has one of the most advanced pharmaceutical industries. India played a very important role in the production of generics for use that was outside. a very important element of democratization of access to medicines all over the world. And we strongly hope that India will have all the instruments that are necessary to play a major role in making sure that global vaccination campaigns become possible. I think that the production capacity of India is one of the best assets the world has today, and I hope the world understands that it must be fully used, unquote. In this crucial hour of crisis for the humanity, India has delivered on its promise and has stood true to its civilizational ethos of universal brotherhood, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It has led this global fight against COVID-19. India's supply of medicines, medical equipments, testing kits, human resources, and now vaccines have formed the core of the global recovery efforts against COVID-19. Our contributions toward building a fairer and healthier world, which is the theme of the World Health Day 2021, are unparalleled. I once again thank you all for joining us today. I look forward to a very fruitful discussions today. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you very much, Excellency, for those insightful remarks, which have now laid the foundation or the framework for today's discussions and deliberations. We would now be playing a short audiovisual clip with Arabic subtitles, which beautifully showcase India's initiative and leading contributions to the global fight against this pandemic under the theme Vaccine Maitri, or Vaccine Friendship.
India's Vaccine Maitri is taking the global war against COVID-19 pandemic to a logical end. Made in India COVID vaccines are bringing a glimmer of hope against the pandemic in more than 70 countries across the globe and counting.
Hi, my name is Sylvie. I am a radio presenter of K Radio 97.2 in the Seychelles. On behalf of myself, my family and friends, I would like to say a big thank you to the people and the Republic of India for the generous donations of the COVID-19 vaccines. Dhanyavad.
আরেকটু বলতে চাই যে পাশাপাশি ধন্যবাদ দিতে চাই ভারত সরকারকে, যেখানে বিশ্বের অন্যান্য দেশ ভ্যাকসিন আদৌ পাবে কিনা বা ঠিক কবে নাগাদ পেতে পারে, কী দামে পেতে পারে, সেটি নিয়ে যখন দোলাজালে দুলছে দুশ্চিন্তার, তখন ভারত বাংলাদেশের প্রতিবেশী বন্ধু হিসেবে এই যে বিপুল সংখ্যক ভ্যাকসিন একেবারে কিছুটা উপহার হিসেবে এবং কিছুটা সুলভ মূল্যে বাংলাদেশের সরকার পর্যন্ত যে পৌঁছে দেওয়ার ব্যাপারটি, সেটির জন্য একজন গণমাধ্যম কর্মী হিসেবেও কিন্তু বাংলাদেশের পক্ষ থেকে ভারত সরকারকে ধন্যবাদ দিতে চাই।
На владу просто на знімальному майданчику медсестра Наталія щеплює ведучу та гостей студії, співачку Руслану Лежичко. Право на владу Наталія Мосейчук лише місяць тому перехворіла ковідом, але, каже, участь в акції для неї принципова. Розвіяти міфи щодо індійської вакцини та вакцинації в цілому зараз дуже важливо.
Hello, bonjour, namaskar. As Indo-Canadians, we would like to express our sincerest gratitude to the people of India and Prime Minister Modi for your generosity in sharing with us the COVID-19 vaccines. It calls to say, humanity and compassion goes beyond geographical boundaries. Thank you, India.
I'm a professional media worker. As a frontliner at the war against COVID pandemic, I have received a vaccine in the very first days. I would like to thank the government of India and the Serum Institute of India. India has sent 2 million doses of COVID vaccine as gifts and ensured the supply of commercially procured vaccines even at the time of their own needs.
One of the world's largest factory for vaccine manufacturing, providing Kuwait with 200,000 doses of made in India vaccine, Covishield, and more to come.
Namaste. On behalf of all the Mexicans, I'd like to thank the Indian government for supplying our country with vaccines in these very difficult times. From the bottom of all of our hearts, muchas gracias.
And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Prime Minister Modi of India for the very, very generous donation he's made to Antigua and Barbuda of vaccines, 40,000.
My name is Emily Ispawa, also known as Miss Regatta 2019. I would like to thank the government of India for the generous donations of COVID-19 vaccines. Thank you very much, we appreciate it.
As the humanity is fighting against the pandemic, the humanitarian gestures of India is reverberating around the world. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukh Bhag Bhavet. May everyone be healthy and free from illness.
I now have the honor of introducing to you all our chief guest for today's event, Shri Damu Ravi Sir, Secretary Europe and COVID-19, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of Republic of India, who is kindly joining us today virtually for the event. Shri Damu Ravi Sir is a senior officer of the Indian Foreign Service. He joined the ministry in the year 1989 and has served in various missions across the world and has held important portfolios in the Ministry of External Affairs and other departments and ministries of Government of India under deputation. As part of the core team and the nodal officer handling COVID-19 management in the ministry, he has spearheaded and coordinated our efforts in the fight against COVID-19. Without further ado, I would now like to invite Shri Damu Ravi Sir to address the gathering and deliver the inaugural remarks on this occasion. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon to all. At the outset, the Ambassador of India to Kuwait, Shri C.B. George, my dear friend, His Excellency Dr. Ahmad Tuaini, President of the Kuwait Medical Association, Dr. Rachis Ella, Project Lead for all SARS vaccines and Head Business Development and Advocacy, Dr. Amir Ahmed, President of the Indian Doctors Forum, distinguished dignitaries from the Ministry of Health, State of Kuwait, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, it gives me immense pleasure to address this esteemed gathering today. I thank my colleague, Ambassador C.B. George, for inviting me to inaugurate this important event and share with you some of the experiences and best practices from India in COVID-19 pandemic management. I'm quite confident that today's discussions will be extremely useful to all the participants in getting a better understanding of COVID-19 vaccine and give an insight on India's emergence as the pharmacy of the world. I am so happy to hear from our ambassador about the important role that Indian doctors and medical professionals in Kuwait are doing hand in hand with Kuwaiti doctors in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic crisis in Kuwait. I thank them for their efforts and dedication. Now, for me, this is an opportunity to also to explain to you how India managed the COVID pandemic. When around this time last year, in the month of March, the Ministry of External Affairs, and I happened to head this cell, initially with the support of a small number, which expanded to about 100 people. But let me tell you very honestly, nobody knew how to handle this COVID crisis because it was extremely elusive, new, and we need to learn from each other. Experience of other countries were extremely useful in formulating our own strategy. I was no doubt heading the body from headquarters, but at the same time, I was assisted by our ambassadors from around the world. Then there are also senior officials from the other departments of the Government of India. So in a way, it was a Government of India effort, a collective effort, without which we would not have been able to tackle the way we did in the whole of last year. There were three components, particularly that the COVID cell and the Minister of External Affairs were grappled with, and we needed to deal with that efficiently. One of which was the Indian standard abroad. The other one was the foreign national standard in India. And the third one was the supply of medicines to a large number of countries who were looking up to India for their sourcing. We received input from the missions. We formulated a strategy as to how we bring Indians. We launched Vande Bharat mission on the 7th of May. And very soon, we were able to fly our aircrafts into those countries and repatriate our people. And I must, at this point of time, thank all the governments, particularly the government of Kuwait, for helping our missions to efficiently repatriate Indians from Kuwait into India through our Vande Bharat mission flights. The government authorities of Kuwait, we are very grateful. We express our sincere gratitude. And also the civil aviation authorities in Kuwait for allowing our aircraft to land smoothly and take off. Today, I can say the numbers are significantly high. We've been able to lift about 5.6 million Indians from around the world. That's quite a significant number. I don't think in the peace times we have ever done such kind of an operation of this large number airlifting. The second point was the foreign nationals who were stranded in India. So that was also an extremely difficult exercise. By end of December, we were able to safely return foreign nationals, about 110,000 people from 120 countries back to their countries. This again involved the cooperation of various missions. The resident ambassadors were involved in safely taking back the nationals into their countries, and the heavy logistic operations were involved, helping people, foreign nationals from remote areas to the international airports. The third important thing, the supply of hydroxychloroquine and paracetamol and other important drugs and medical equipment became very, very important during that time. As you know, that was also a period of shortages. We in India itself was facing shortages, but when we went into a complete lockdown on the 24th of March for about 2 months, we realized that we needed to beef up our domestic supplies, both in the HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, paracetamols, and also equipment. Interestingly, the domestic industry geared up to these challenges, and they were able to immediately to lift the numbers, and very soon we were comfortable dealing with our own situation, the domestic situation, and at the same time we were also able to map out the requirements of countries around the world, how much they would need and how to supply them. And that was an incredible exercise, which was very successfully launched. And another important thing was we were also able to send, in the spirit of friendship and cooperation, to friendly countries our medical teams. Kuwait was one such country where we sent a friendly country, so we needed to reach out. We did it with due diligence, and there was excellent cooperation on the front. What it underpinned, in my understanding, in this last 1 year of operations of this COVID crisis, it gave us an interesting and important message, the message of cooperation. The global cooperation is an important element if you have to save the humanity. I think that is what was very, very clear for all of us. And we believe we would continue to need that kind of spirit of cooperation from all the countries around the world to take forward the fight against COVID and similar kind of diseases that will impact and harm the humanity. So far, our track record has been fairly good in the way we controlled the pandemic, but from a very high numbers, we were able to bring it down to very low numbers of 10,000 a day, less than 10,000 a day. We made interesting and important recoveries also. The fatality rates were brought down quite significantly. But I don't think it gives us room for comfort. These numbers don't give room for comfort. We are seeing in the second spike, the numbers are going up. Although the recovery rates are very good, but the numbers are going up. So we need to deal with this in a very, very diligent manner and a concerted manner, seeking cooperation from not only within the domestic apparatus and the structures of the government, but also from internationally. Friendly countries like Kuwait, their cooperation is also needed. We put in place the cluster management, the containment strategies, the contact tracing, the quarantine. All of this have been put in place. We are also using digital devices, the digital methods in tracking people. The Arogya Setu application has become very popular for domestic travel and also people across our own internal state borders, provincial borders. I'm also at the same time recognize the significant role of the frontline workers in India. Their fight, without their fight, I don't think we would have been able to tackle this crisis in the way we did. Of course, at this point of time, the attention has shifted to vaccine production in the country and the management of the vaccine. Currently, there are 2 vaccine candidates who have been given the emergency authorization use, which is the COVISHIELD and the COVAXIN. And I'm sure the participants, the distinguished participants, would be able to throw more light in terms of how the COVAXIN is being produced in India and what are the numbers that we're looking at. My own understanding is that we have a robust plan. We are quite confident that by, let's say, in about June, July, middle of this year, there will be more candidates coming out, vaccine candidates coming out into the use approvals by the committee. But I think we need to also have patience, because vaccines are coming out of a laboratory or coming out of an institute doesn't mean that it's ready. It has to go through extensive clinical trials. In the country, and also in the country where it is going to be exported. They need to see the data, they need to evaluate the clinical trial data that is produced, and then only the acceptance is allowed. So that is the rigorous process actually causes the delay. But I think it is also the safety of human beings is very important. So we need to have these due diligences in place. What is India's approach to vaccines? And Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Honorable Prime Minister, has already mentioned at the last UNGA that Indian vaccines are to serve the humanity, and that is the spirit with which we are driving our vaccine policy. The vaccine Maitri is now already in place. We are, while taking care of our domestic population, we are doing about 1 million vaccine tests a day. But at the same time, we are also conscious of the requirements and the needs of the countries outside, their demands and their seriousness of the cases. We are conscious of that, and we are supplying to them as well. Already 75 countries have been covered with about 80 million doses. And we are confident that more candidates, as and when they come out, the vaccine candidates, we will be able to supply in greater number to countries abroad. Now, what it all tells us, and I've already mentioned that the global cooperation underpins the way to tackle this pandemic. I think as and when the healthcare becomes an important policy of nations around the world, the health diplomacy becomes very important. The ambassadors, the healthcare workers in all these countries will play an important role. And we also need to know, we need to strengthen the multilateral bodies like the WHO, the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization. All these are important because you need to address the intellectual property rights and how we can make these vaccines and medicines reach out to a large number of countries and support the healthcare programs for saving the humanity. I think we need to have a greater, deeper understanding on this, and that is where, again, the understanding between friendly countries like India and Kuwait would be useful to drive the policy at the multilateral level. Well, I think I've spoken a lot, but I don't want to go into details because I'm not an expert. I must, at the same time, confess. This year is the 60th anniversary of the India-UK diplomatic relations. So it is, again, marks an important milestone in bilateral relations. It calls for deeper cooperation between our two countries. And I know the ambassadors on both sides are working very hard to ensure that we are able to deepen this cooperation. So with these words, with great pleasure, I inaugurate this event. I wish the Indian community in Kuwait and the friends of India in Kuwait all the very best, the safe stay. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, sir, for inaugurating the event and also for providing a comprehensive overview of COVID-19 management by India and India's global vaccine initiative. I would now like to invite our guest of honor for today's event, His Excellency Dr. Ahmad Tuwaini Al-Anizi, President of the Kuwait Medical Association, KMA, to the podium to deliver his remarks on the occasion.
The Ambassador of India, His Excellency Mr. C.B. George, the President of IDF, Dr. Ahmed Amir, the Secretary of the Ministry of External Affairs, India, our guests, distinguished speakers, good evening. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for inviting me tonight to attend this wonderful meeting again. And indeed, it is of a great honor and pleasure to address this esteemed gathering. Kuwait and India share a relationship that is both unique and special. The destinies of Kuwait and India are interlinked by centuries of historical ties, cultural affinity, and open and broad-minded point of view, viewpoint that embraces diversity and pluralism. Thus, Kuwait and India have epitomized their interaction for centuries. The Indian community has been peacefully residing in Kuwait, and Kuwait has welcomed India with open arms to form around 20% of its population. India has extended medical help and assistance to the whole world and Kuwait in this fight against COVID-19 pandemic. India has established its credentials as the pharmacy to Kuwait and to the whole world. The country is a vaccine powerhouse. It makes around 60% of the world's vaccines, and it is home of half a dozen of major manufacturers. We know that COVAXIN is an inactivated vaccine, which means it is made of killed coronaviruses, making it safe to be used. Bharat Biotech used a sample of the coronavirus isolated by the Indian's National Institute of Virology. It is a vaccine with no sub-zero storage, no reconstitution requirement, and ready-to-use liquid presentation in multi-dose vials stable at 2 to 8 centigrades of temperature. It demonstrated strong immunogenicity and protective efficacy and generated excellent safety data without any reactogenicity. COVAXIN demonstrated more than 80% efficacy in preventing COVID-19 on those without prior infection after the second dose. Its efficacy against the variant strains is under study. Kuwait Medical Association and Kuwaiti doctors have found great companions and supporters in the Indian doctors who have fought unitedly and diligently with us in this war against the virus. The great contribution of India in this war, being the provider of 200,000 vaccines doses, the COVAXIN vaccine earlier, is one of the great help, great support to Kuwait. But the greatest support and contribution before that is the presence of thousands of health professionals from India in Kuwait, working hand to hand with us to fight against COVID-19 pandemic. As the president of Kuwait Medical Association, I am very happy to see the excellent cooperation among the two countries and the preparedness to their best. I thank our outstanding speakers tonight and this evening, and I wish everyone best of luck and good health in the coming year. Now, finally, as the president of the regional Middle East and North Africa sector of the World Health Association, and on behalf of the World Health, on the World Medical Association, I thank the pharmacy of the world, India, for the support for the whole world to fight against the pandemic COVID-19. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, for your insightful remarks, which have summarized in a nutshell the various elements of the excellent bilateral cooperation between our two friendly countries, especially in the healthcare domain, and more importantly, at this crucial juncture while we are collectively fighting this battle against COVID. We would now like to play another short audiovisual clip on India's Vaccine Friendship Initiative.
India, the world's pharmacy, is at the forefront of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. India's Vaccine Maitri initiative has supplied COVID vaccine to more than 70 countries around the world.
India will have all the instruments that are necessary to play a major role in making sure that a global vaccination campaign becomes possible.
Hello, this is Sir Richard Richardson. On behalf of the government and the people of Antigua and Barbuda, I would like to thank the Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister Modi, for his kind generosity in offering us 40,000 Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. We are extremely grateful to you and your country, sir. Thank you very, very much.
Opportunity for me to thank for exactly the wonderful contribution that India would have made to our country, which is the vaccine. We thank you so much on behalf of the Antiguan and Barbudan people.
We are first thankful to India for providing us 2 million vaccines, as a gift. But more importantly, they are continuing supplying the vaccination from the Serum Company as scheduled.
I'm very pleased to have been given the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, manufactured in India at the Serum Institute, but originally developed in the UK. It's true, I believe, that over half the vaccinations in the world are made in India. So India is a world-class vaccination manufacturer.
When we needed to bring back our students stranded in Wuhan, India was there. When our health professionals desperately needed assistance and expertise, India was there. When we needed to stock up on essential food items and medicine, India was there. It is unquestionable that India is our number one first responder in times of critical need, especially during this time of global pandemic.
But I really appreciate that on behalf of Canada and Canadians. Really thank you for that and for India's friendship on that front. It is most appreciated.
See His Excellency the Indian Ambassador, the Minister of Health today, who delivered 100,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is a gift from the friendly government of India and the people of India to the Sultanate of Oman.
The Indian government's neighborhood first policy made a very positive impact on our health sector and the economy during the critical period. Unprecedented.
And I would like to express our sincere gratitude to your government for the supplies of the COVISHIELD vaccine, which have just been handed over to us. I would also like to thank my colleague, Foreign Minister of India, with whom I've had a few exchanges recently, for the prompt consideration of our request made earlier this month, and for the personal role that he and yourself, High Commissioner, have played in ensuring the expeditious delivery of the vaccine to Seychelles. Thank you very much.
With the donation by the government of India, and we want the Indian people to know that the Kenyans are very, very gracious and very, very happy. We just want the Indian people to know that we are grateful that even as India tackles its own challenges, they also remember their friends here in Kenya. We cooperate in all other fields, in the medical field, and we want to enhance and grow this relationship that is there between us.
While safeguarding its own, India is a trustworthy global vaccine supplier, providing humanitarian assistance in this time of crisis, which is being appreciated by all, from Afghanistan to Angola, Bangladesh to Brazil, Colombia to the Caribbean islands, Myanmar to Mali, and Saudi Arabia to Serbia. India is deeply honored to be a trusted partner in meeting the healthcare needs of the global community. India's vaccine Maitri is taking the global war against COVID-19 pandemic to a logical end.
I would now like to invite Dr. Amir Ahmed, President of Indian Doctors Forum IDF Kuwait, to the podium to deliver his kind remarks, please.
Honorable Ambassador of India, His Excellency Mr. C.B. George, Chief Guest of today's function, Honorable Secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, Honorable President at the Kuwait Medical Association, Dr. Ahmed Tuwaini Al-Anizi, my dear friends, Mr. Ashok and Mr. Rajpal, embassy officials, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good evening, namaskar. We have all gathered here today on the occasion to celebrate the World Health Day. It was on this day in 1948 that the World Health Organization was founded. And every year, a theme is instituted. This year, the theme is building a fairer and a healthier world. India has already gone a step ahead and implemented the practical aspect of this theme. We just got to hear and see videos talking about the vaccine manufacturing capacity of India. And to build a fairer and healthier world, we need to share these vaccines. The government of India, through its Vaccine Maitri initiative, has already instituted this process and tried to make the world a better, fairer, and healthier place to live in. COVID pandemic has been with us for more than a year. We have had waves, first wave, second wave, now probably the third and the fourth wave. All of us need to act responsibly if we need to win our fight against COVID. Yeah, there are 3 fundamental principles that each one of us needs to follow. All of us need to wear the mask. We need to wash our hands regularly. And we need to maintain social distance. In addition to this, to keep the pandemic under control, we need to vaccinate ourselves. This vaccination drive has to go full swing. Here, the Ministry of Health has been very generous. On their website, there is a registration page. Our Honorable Ambassador is willing to help our Indian community who are based over here. Those who need assistance to register, there's a counter over here at the embassy. Please come forward, register yourself, and get the vaccine taken. Don't go by the information that's given by WhatsApp universities. Don't trust or rely on any expert opinions expressed by a doctor or 2. If you need to gain information, get those information from the Ministry of Health websites of the respective country or from international regulatory bodies like the WHO or CDC. But do not rely or do not spread messages that come from any other source. All that it does is it delays the process of vaccination. As such, people have this vaccine hesitancy. And when such news and other opinions are expressed, it creates further doubt. And delaying the process of taking this vaccination gives the virus a chance to mutate. That's how we have got these mutants. Had we been in a position to vaccinate the entire world in a short given period of time, even if it were to be a percentage of around 70%, we would achieve herd immunity, thereby protecting the others who are not vaccinated. So the message over here is loud and clear. We need to vaccinate everybody. And to achieve this, we need vaccines. And that's where India comes into play. As mentioned by our Honorable Guest of Honor, Dr. Ahmed Al-Anzi, more than 60% of the vaccines are manufactured by India. Even in the case of COVID, the vaccine manufacturing capacity of Serum Institute of India and now Bharat Biotech is huge. Bharat Biotech has come up with an indigenous vaccine, COVAXIN. Here it was mentioned. The difference between this indigenous vaccine that is being manufactured by India and the other vaccine is COVAXIN is an inactivated vaccine. By that, what I mean to say is the virus retains its entire physical form but doesn't have the capacity to replicate, doesn't have the capacity to produce the disease. So the benefit of this vaccine is antibodies are produced and the immune system recognizes the entire proteins that are there in the virus. Unlike the other vaccine where the spike protein that is present on the coronavirus, the spike protein which is very essential for attaching itself to the cell and then causing the replication and the disease in the body, it's the genetic material of that spike protein. That is what's injected or introduced into the body and you develop immunity. COVAXIN, all the proteins. That is why COVAXIN has been shown to be effective against all the variants that have been known till date. This is one big advantage of COVAXIN. The second advantage of COVAXIN is COVAXIN will not cause anaphylactic shock. It will not cause anaphylaxis. Other vaccines have the possibility of causing anaphylaxis. This is another very big advantage. The third advantage is it can be stored at 2 to 8 degrees, so easily transported easily. The fourth, again, the inactivated vaccine it's a time-honored principle. Vaccination principle is mainly based on this inactivated vaccine or live attenuated vaccine. Then the cost factor, that's also small. And then it's a ready-to-use vial. You open the vial, you can keep it open for around 28 days, if I'm not mistaken. We have an expert speaker from the company who will enlighten us about this particular feature. And multiple people can receive the dose from a single vial. So these are all the advantages that is going to play a very big role in helping people get vaccinated in the third world countries, in the poorer countries where logistics is a big problem. That is why I keep saying that COVAXIN is going to be the game changer. Once COVAXIN is approved by the WHO and the other international regulatory bodies and comes into circulation, that is when we will have a real control over this pandemic. The third clinical phase trials results have been announced in India. They are very encouraging, very supportive, and it's a matter of time before this vaccine goes all out. There's much more to be said, but we'll wait for the expert from the company to speak about this, because here we are all standing to talk about and to hear and know about COVAXIN. As far as the Indian Doctors Forum is concerned, our members are reaching out to the community over here, spreading health awareness about corona and the importance of getting yourself registered for this vaccination. We, under the guidance and advice of our Honorable Ambassador, we are going to bring out pamphlets in 14 different languages. And also, we are going to spread messages in 14 different languages, appealing to the community to go ahead, get registered, and get the vaccination. Before vaccination and even after vaccination, 3 cardinal pillars that each one needs to follow. Vaccination should not give one the false hope of being protected. No. Vaccination doesn't say that it protects you. What it says that if at all the person is infected, the scale of infection is mild to moderate degree. The person doesn't exhibit serious symptoms needing hospitalization or needing ICU care. This is what vaccination can do. So with these very few words, once again, I appeal to all of you on this World Health Day to wear your mask, to wash your hands regularly, and to maintain social distance. And if you have not registered, not got yourself vaccinated, please do so. And with this, when we join hands together, all of us together, we will win our fight over this COVID pandemic. Thank you, Excellency. Thank you, Embassy officials, for having invited me over here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amir, for your informative remarks, explaining the technicalities of the vaccine, and for your expert advice on COVID-19. To talk in greater detail about COVID-19 vaccines, especially about Made in India COVAXIN, we'll now have an expert talk by our specialist speaker of the day, Shri Dr. Rachis Ella, who is the project lead for all SARS-CoV-2 vaccines, and he's also the head of business development and advocacy at Bharat Biotech, which is one of India's leading biotechnology companies. Dr. Rachis completed his medical doctorate in India and later completed a Master of Science in Clinical Research from Emory University, and he's also a postdoctoral fellow from Bloomberg School of Public Health, Johns Hopkins University. As head business development and advocacy, he is responsible for searching and evaluating opportunities, technologies, and products ranging from pre-clinical and clinical stage candidates and executing later stage collaborations out licensing. Dr. Rachas also serves on the boards of Chiron Behring Vaccines Private Limited and BioVet Private Limited. So without further ado, I would now request Dr. Rachas Ella, who is joining us virtually, to deliver his presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Ambassador Sibi George, Sri Damu Ravi, Doctors Ahmed Tiveni and Amir Ahmed, my dear friends, my fellow clinicians, very good afternoon. I'm very humbled to be here on the invite of the Indian Embassy from Kuwait to discuss to you or elaborate further on COVAXIN. I must admit, after going after Dr. Amir Ahmed, it's going to be quite a repetition. He was quite spot on with his description of COVAXIN and the current results and what kinds of precautions should be taken once you get vaccinated as well. But there is some new data as well to share with you, and I'll be happy to share my presentation right now. Please let me know if you're able to see the entirety of my screen.
Yes, it's visible.
Wonderful. I'll get going. So thank you very much for that introduction. As you know, my name is Rachas Ella. I'm the project leader for all SARS-CoV-2 vaccines at Bharat Biotech. Before I get into talking to you about COVAXIN briefly, I would like to just give you an introduction on our company and what we do. We were founded in 1996, and we primarily deal with vaccines and biotherapeutics. We started off in 96 with a hepatitis B vaccine. And over the last 25 years, we've accrued investments of approximately $250 million US. And these investments are not the investments which you're used to knowing. These are primarily the form of research grants. As you know, vaccines are possibly, after clean water and hygiene, vaccines are the second best public health tool that we have. So these are mostly in the form of research grants that we get from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the Wellcome Trust organization to develop various vaccines and bring it to market. We have approximately 2,000 of my colleagues working across 6 manufacturing facilities across India. And various of our vaccines are registered not only in India, but the rest of the world as well. Coming to our portfolio, we have a vast amount of vaccines. We have approximately 16 different licensed vaccines. And as you know, vaccines are primarily required for children. So as you can see here, our list is primarily dealing with pediatric vaccines, but several of those vaccines can also be administered to adults or travelers as well. Moving forward to our product pipeline, this is where I get excited to talk about. We're a very scientific driven company, and we like to innovate on our own, where we believe in not infringing on intellectual property rights, and hence we like to develop our own patents and our own vaccines. That being said, as you know, I'm here to talk to you about our COVID-19 vaccines. That one is in phase 3 clinical trials, which has received emergency use, which is COVAXIN. The other is a promising intranasal vaccine, which is in phase 1 clinical development. We've also received funding from global organizations such as CEPI, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to develop several other vaccines, such as a chikungunya, Zika, cholera, and typhoid vaccine. These are all in different stages of clinical trials across the world. Moving forward, we also do our own clinical trials. We've done approximately 90 clinical trials. These are human clinical trials where we assess the safety, efficacy, and immune response to these vaccines. We've done this in approximately 20 countries in across 700,000 volunteers. As far as our product reaches goes, we've supplied 6 billion doses in the last 20 years. So it's a cumulative number. And we've supplied approximately 123 countries. And as you know, vaccine development is an extremely difficult task. It involves a lot of partnership. It's just not Bharat Biotech alone who's able to succeed. We ally with various academic institutions, public health organizations, philanthropic organizations, and various governments as well for funding, for technical support, and also for project implementation. And we're always thankful to our colleagues. Coming to our COVID-19 vaccine strategy, as Dr. Ahmed eloquently put it, there are various waves of COVID-19 infection, which you're all aware of. The first wave was over, and I believe India, for example, is in its second wave right now. And there's possibilities of a third wave. With vaccine development or with vaccine design, we believe in such a similar ideology. Currently, right now, what vaccines that are there in the world, there are approximately 8 to 10 licensed vaccines. These all constitute the first wave of vaccines. And they're immensely important. Because speed to market, and we do need vaccines and to mitigate this pandemic. But there are a few deficiencies in these vaccines, or possibly some weaknesses, such as cold chain issues, reduced efficacy, or possibly efficacy against these variants of concerns. And with that regard, the second generation or the third generation vaccines, the vaccines that may come out this year or the vaccines that may come out next year, may solve those additional issues that we so desperately need. And with that regard, we're working on 4 different COVID-19 vaccines. The first vaccine is in partnership with the Indian Council of Medical Research, which has been licensed, COVAXIN. And we partnered with Washington University to develop an intranasal vaccine, which is in phase 1 clinical trials. We hope to get licensure by the end of this year. And our third generation vaccines are with the universities of Wisconsin and Thomas Jefferson. Moving forward to COVAXIN, as you know, this is an inactivated vaccine. So as you see by my slide over here, there are various approaches towards designing a vaccine. What we've decided to do is to grow the virus in these large steel tanks, or fermentation tanks is what we call them. And then we inactivate them with a chemical agent. So thereby the virus is intact. It does not have the ability to infect, replicate, and cause disease. However, your immune system detects that there is a foreign object and it mounts an antibody response towards it. These vaccines are called whole virion inactivated vaccines. They've been conventionally found to be safe. They've been used for the last 5 decades, in fact. It's a proven, established platform. You can give it to even pregnant individuals. And these vaccines you've probably taken many of these vaccines, such as injectable polio, pertussis, seasonal flu, which is an annual vaccine you annually take. This vaccine is in partnership with the Indian Council of Medical Research, which is a government agency, which is the highest level of health authority in India. And they've partnered with us, Bharat Biotech, to develop this vaccine. And as mentioned to you before, we are using a certain manufacturing platform called the ViroCell manufacturing platform. And we have several different licensed vaccines already on this platform. So it's nothing new here. This is something we're very used to doing, and we have a vast amount of experience with it. And that was one of the prime reasons for us to embark on this project. Overall, we've done 25 clinical trials in 300,000 subjects. And over the last 15 years, it's shown a great safety profile. And we've supplied 300 million doses based on this ViroCell manufacturing platform, which is the same platform we are using for COVAXIN. One of the prime reasons why we're able to develop COVAXIN is because of this access to a BSL-3 manufacturing facility. BSL-3 stands for Biosafety Level 3. It's a very contained facility. In fact, it's about 20 feet or 30 feet under the ground with thick concrete slabs along its periphery. The air, oxygen is continuously purified. And as you can see here with my daring colleagues who are actually handling live virus in these facilities, they are completely protected in their PPE equipment. So this is one of the prime reasons why we were able to work with this virus. As you can see, you have to grow this virus at a large scale, and then you need to inactivate it. As mentioned to you before, we take pride in innovating and being very transparent. And that involves a lot of scientific peer-reviewed publications. And over the last 1 year, every study we've done on COVAXIN is publicly available through the form of medical peer-reviewed journals. Our animal studies, as you can see on the left-hand side of this slide, was done in mice, rabbits, and rats. That's published. We were the first vaccine to do efficacy studies in hamsters and non-human primates. Non-human primates are also known as monkeys, and they are the closest form to humans, and that's the best way of understanding how well the vaccine works. And all of this data is published as well. Our phase 1 and phase 2 clinical trials were published in Lancet. We've also done neutralization studies. So we're trying to assess how well COVAXIN is effective against the UK strain, which is the predominant strain circulating at the moment. And we found that the vaccine is able to effectively block the UK strain as well, which is a significant finding, and those results are published. And lastly, with our phase 3 efficacy data in 25,800 volunteers, we reported an efficacy of 81%. Moving to our clinical trials, our phase 1 trials was done in 375 volunteers. The entire scientific report is published in the Lancet. And one of the prime findings, again, as what Dr. Ahmed was alluding to, is the reactogenicity profile. So reactogenicity basically means what are the side effects you could get within the first 7 days after receiving a jab. And what we've noticed here was that we've compared our results with results that were published by the Oxford, Pfizer, Moderna, and Sputnik group, all from leading medical journals. And what we've noticed was that the side effect profile in participants who received COVAXIN was approximately 15%. And if you compare this to the other vaccines, there was significantly higher. So again, it just goes to show the immense amount of safety that you receive with these inactivated vaccines. Safety is always a given. The only question we didn't know was what would be the efficacy. And later on, we've proven it to be 81%. Moving to the phase 2 clinical trials, again, also published in Lancet, Infectious Diseases. I don't wish to get too technical, but what we've noticed was that the immune response generated from COVAXIN, these are measured by an entity called neutralizing antibody responses. So these are antibodies that have the ability to bind to the coronavirus and block it from infecting a human cell. So these are very functional antibodies. And what we've compared is our antibody responses through COVAXIN vaccination was equal to those participants who were naturally infected as well. So this is a very good surrogate marker from an immunological aspect to say that the vaccine seems to be working. It seems to be making an immune response that is on par with those individuals who get naturally infected. Coming to the side effect profile or the reactogenicity profile, very similar findings to our phase 2. Approximately 10 to 12% of the participants in the trial reported at least one side effect. Again, this is not a high number when you compare it to the other vaccines. Moving forward to our phase 3 clinical trial, which is the largest efficacy clinical trial ever done in India. 25,800 daring volunteers were recruited for this across 25 sites. It's important to, when you do a clinical trial, to have it pan-India, or at least have it in many geographic locations as possible so that you can cover the entire length and breadth of the population, study population. We've partnered with a very famous multinational corporation by the name of IQVIA to conduct these phase 3 clinical trials so that we as the sponsor of the trial are not biased to the interpretation of the results. Moving forward, this is a phase 3 efficacy study conducted in healthy volunteers. Essentially what we do here is 25,800 volunteers enroll into the study, so we take their consent, and half of them are randomized. So we don't know which half get the vaccine and the other half get the placebo. So 12,900 get 2 doses of the vaccine. The other 12,900 get 2 doses of the placebo. And we are blinded. So we don't know who received what. And once they receive both doses of either vaccine or placebo, they are monitored for signs and symptoms of COVID-19. And if they report any signs and symptoms, We collect a nasopharyngeal sample and we analyze it through RT-PCR to detect their diagnosis. And what we found here, interestingly, is that the efficacy of COVAXIN in our first interim analysis was approximately 81%. So there was a 81% efficacy towards prevention of COVID-19 disease, which is a very, very significant finding. In fact, it's quite a high efficacy as well. It's not on terms of the Pfizers and the Modernas, but however, it's still found to be extremely effective. Moving forward towards our global plans and the government of India's Vaccine Maitri initiative, we have begun the emergency use listings in several countries across the world. We have a heavy focus on LATAM, the Middle East, and Southeast Asia, as you can see by this map. And our goal is to further our mission to ensure that COVAXIN is accessible at an equitable rate. Moving forward with our national rollout, so COVAXIN has been available in India for the last 3 months. We've supplied 3.5 million doses to the government of India. No deaths have been reported that are linked to the vaccine, which is a very important finding. As Dr. Ahmed mentioned as well, there are no cases of anaphylaxis. So there are no immediate side effects. Within 30 minutes or 2 hours of vaccination, we are not noticing any immediate side effects, which is a good finding to have. And something proprietary about this vaccine is that it has something called a 28-day open vial policy. So what that means is that once you open the vaccine, so these vaccines come in something called a multi-dose presentation. So in one glass vial contains 10 doses of vaccine. So once you open the vial, you can take a dose, vaccinate an individual, and if there are no more individuals to vaccinate that given day, you can put back the vial in the fridge. You don't need to discard it the very same day. Many of the vaccines out there, once you open it, you have to discard it within 6 hours. Leads to something called open vial vaccine wastage. So we feel that with this 28-day open vial policy, the wastage rates are going to significantly go down. And this will have a huge impact on any Ministry of Health or any government that chooses COVAXIN and as the vaccine to administer for mass immunization programs. As you can completely mitigate this concern of vaccine wastage, and you can buy the exact amount of vaccine that you desire for your population. You don't need to artificially inflate your number. Coming to the variants of concern, there are 3 variants that have been identified by the WHO, and they're based on their geographic location and various mutations, predominantly in the spike region of the coronavirus. We are tracking this extensively, and because we are working on an inactivated vaccine, we believe that this may have the potential to have at least a good effective efficacy against these 3 strains, these 3 variants, as you see on this slide. We've been assessing them, and we're able to successfully publish our results with the UK strain. As you can see here, the red dots and the green dots. The red dots indicate the efficacy, the neutralizing efficacy against the Wuhan strain, and the green dots indicate the UK strain. And we notice no difference between COVAXIN's effect on the Wuhan strain or the UK strain. So very promising findings. And as we go along this process, we are also evaluating the efficacy against the South African and the Brazilian strain as well. With that, I would like to thank the Kuwait Embassy for giving us this opportunity to elaborate further about COVAXIN. Published results of our phase 3 efficacy studies will be available shortly through a peer-reviewed publication. And if there are any questions along the way, we'll be happy to share our email with you, or we'll be happy to probably better present our data in a much more detailed manner. Thank you so much. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Ella, for the extremely informative talk and presentation, and for providing deeper insights on COVAXIN, its development journey, and for sharing some of its key highlights. So before I conclude, we would like to play an extremely short audiovisual clip of the United Nations Secretary General speaking about India's vaccine development infrastructure or assets and what it means to the world.
I think that the production capacity of India is one of the best assets the world has today, and I hope the world understands that it must be fully used.
Thank you. With this, we come to the end of today's event. On behalf of Embassy of India, I would like to extend a formal vote of thanks to our chief guest, our guests of honor, our expert speaker, the business and investor communities from India and Kuwait, respected members of the Indian diaspora, and friends of India and Kuwait who have joined us today on the virtual platform, and the ones who are present here in the auditorium, distinguished guests and viewers who are watching us live on Embassy's social media platforms, and esteemed members of the media community in Kuwait for attending this event and making it a grand success. Thank you all once again. Be safe and be healthy, remain vigilant, and continue to follow all health and safety guidelines related to COVID-19. Have a nice day. Thank you.